Welcome to our first quarterly update by the Executive Board. This is part of a new communications strategy where every quarter we want to give you an update on our progress as a firm. Today we have three very important topics for you. To start with, both Steve Blake, our Executive Board member responsible for health and safety, and Mike Thomas, the leader of health and safety globally, are going to give you an update on where we are on health and safety. As Chief Executive Officer, I'd like to reinforce that health and safety should be a priority for all of us. It's our responsibility to make sure that our staff, our clients, and the contractors that we work with on a daily basis go home safely every single night.
I wanted to give all of you an update on the status of our overall global health and safety program. As you know, our focus is to make sure that no one gets hurt in Arcadis. That's our long-term goal. In 2011, we did the HARC, where we evaluated the hazardous activities that go on in each OPCO, and then we prioritized those. So I have to say I'm happy that all of our OPCOs made that happen. And then in 2012, our goal was to get staff in place that can develop project-based health and safety plans for those high hazard activities. And those two things are well underway. We're getting our leadership teams in place, and we're starting to get our project-based health and safety plans in place. We're making tremendous progress on that. I want to thank all our OPCOs for making that happen, and we're moving towards the no one gets hurt concept in Arcadis.
As Steve mentioned, our health and safety objectives in 2012 were to focus on health and safety planning on our projects and to ensure that we had appropriate staffing in place to support that planning. I'm happy to say we've made progress in both areas. With regards to staffing, we've added a health and safety coordinator for the European OPCOs to support their health and safety planning efforts. That person is dedicated to provide assistance and support in health and safety plan development, review, and implementation. Another thing that we were able to accomplish is the training of 16 staff members from 6 of our OPCOs in Europe, representing each of the business lines in Europe, in Hoofddorp, the Netherlands. The one-day training class covered health and safety planning, how to review health and safety plans, and what the contents of a proper health and safety plan should be. Those 16 staff members now will support projects in their health and safety planning efforts for the rest of 2012 and beyond. In Brazil, we've added health and safety staff to each of their business lines and are now in the process of adding additional staff to their corporate health and safety roles to support projects throughout Arcadis logos. In Chile, they've added health and safety staff members to support mining clients, environmental projects, and their infrastructure work throughout Chile and Peru. The U.S. is also providing staff to RTKL to help support their health and safety efforts globally. Health and safety planning is designed to proactively identify hazards, assess the risks of those hazards, and ensure that we have the proper controls in place before we start any work. And I'm happy to say that our health and safety planning efforts globally, as we implement our Track to Zero concept, have improved greatly. As we continue to implement Track to Zero, we've seen a greater awareness of health and safety and a much improved commitment to health and safety among our staff and our senior leadership. We've seen an improvement in near-miss recognition, near-miss reporting, and safety sharing and lessons learned sharing. I'm happy to say that the 200 plus safety shares that we've distributed globally are now being shared additionally with our clients, who have seen a great benefit in receiving those safety shares. So 2012 has been a big year for us. We're going to continue to move forward in our Track to Zero concept and ensure that nobody gets hurt.
We've made extremely strong strategic progress this quarter. First of all, our merger with EC Harris is going exceptionally well. In the market, we're having extremely strong success. In virtually every market around the world, we've won work together, combining the capabilities of both Arcadis and our new partners from EC Harris. We've also defined our strategy, our operating model, and our organization for both Europe and the UK. And we'll be transitioning over the second half of the year our operations in those geographies to operate in a new way from 1st of January 2013. Our second major strategic success this quarter has been the successful completion of the merger with Langdon and Saya in April. Langdon & Sayre, as you know, is the #1 cost and program management consultancy in Asia. They have a 78-year history in the region and more than 2,800 staff based across the whole of Asia. The initial marketplace success, together with the presence that we have of our Arcadis and our new merger partners of E.C. Harris, have combined to win new work in Asia already. And we're very excited about the prospects for the combined entities moving forward. From our results at the mid-year point, you will have seen that our margins are under extreme pressure in Europe, and we've initiated a review of our European operations that we will tell you more about at the end of this year. Our fourth strategic progress this quarter is around mergers and acquisitions. You will have no doubt read our acquisition of BMG, an environmental services firm in Switzerland, earlier this quarter. And then at the beginning of August, we were very successful in announcing the merger with ETEP in Brazil, the leading water consultancy. And together with Arcadis Logos' water capabilities, this makes us very clearly the #1 player in the water market in Brazil, which we're very excited about for our future growth prospects, and not just in Brazil, but also across Latin America with our enhanced water capabilities. And then finally, strategically, our shift from public to private continues in terms of our client set. 53% of our revenue is now from the private sector. And then secondly, our shift towards growing in emerging markets, where by the mid-year point, 19% of our revenue is now derived from our emerging markets, and something like 35% of our headcount is now in the emerging markets. Turning now to our first half year results. As you can see, revenues were up 29%, net income up 28%. Our organic net revenue growth in the quarter was 2%, and for the first half year, 4%. Operational margin improved quarter on quarter to 9.2%, despite a one-off charge in Poland of 5.3 million euros. Our backlog is up 5% versus the end of 2011, and we have an improvement to our cash flow. And what I'd like now to do is hand over to Reinier Frey, our CFO, who will take you through the figures in a lot more detail.
Yeah, thank you, Neil. Well, let me share with you how the results have developed from the second quarter of last year compared to the second quarter this year. What we see there is that our EBITDA has improved. It was helped by currency, especially the stronger US dollar had a positive impact. We also see that the impact of the acquisitions, in particularly E.C. Harris and Langdon & Sayre, contributed 16% to the results. On the flip side is that the divestments of the energy activities in Brazil had a negative impact of 27%. We had some less restructuring than in the prior year. Neil already mentioned the one-off in Poland, which had a negative impact on the results. And that means if we take away all those elements, the underlying profitability improved by 15% in our results, coming to the EBITDA in the second quarter of this year of just over 37 million. What it means is that if we look at this result and look at the trend over the last years and quarters, we see that the margin was 9.2% of our net revenues, which is an improvement compared to where we were in the first quarter at 8.9%. And when we take the effect of the acquisitions not into account, then the results was 9.7%, which is exactly the same as the first quarter of this year. And that means that despite the difficult markets, we have again delivered a very good margin, close to the 10% target level that we have at Arcadis. When we take a look at the margin in the various regions of Arcadis, we see significant differences between the entities. Starting with the Netherlands, there the margin was 8.6%, very close to the margin a year ago, so reflecting that in difficult markets the Netherlands has performed well. We see that in the remaining part of Europe, the margin is at 2%, so somewhat lower than it was in 2011. A big impact on this is the one-off charge in Poland, but also without that charge, the margin was only somewhere around 4%, so lagging the targets that we have for Arcadis. The US did well. The US performed with a margin of 13%, even ahead of the good performance that was shown in 2011. And finally, emerging markets, also given the high growth, are doing well with a margin over 9%. The growth of the business lines, the global business lines, are shown in this graph. You see here the organic growth development compared to the same quarter a year ago. The red line indicates the infrastructure business, and infrastructure shows a very consistent high growth also in the second quarter. We see that water has been in decline for quite a few quarters now, but is starting to recover. The buildings business is relatively flat, although still negative, and the environmental business showed a decline in the second quarter, which was caused by the fact that we reduced capacity in some countries already before, and the comparison with 2011 was not easy, because last year we had some significant one-off projects that were won in the United States. But overall, it's important to note that organic growth has remained positive. The margins per business line developed as follows. Infrastructure went down somewhat from 8% last year to just over 7% now, which is also there impacted by what happened in Poland. Water improved to more than 10% margin, given a strong performance and efficiency reached in that business line. The environmental business also remained positive at 12% margin, and buildings is at 7%, also showing that we can still make improvement with the integration of E.C. Harris. And finally, the cash flow. I'm happy to report that the cash flow improved in the first half year. We had a positive cash flow over the first 6 months compared to a negative cash flow for the same period last year, which is thanks to improvements and focus on working capital and cash generation throughout Arcadis. And I must also add to that despite all that good news, there are still plenty of opportunities to further reduce working capital. And as a consequence of this cash flow generation and the profit that we have made, our balance sheet remains healthy, which is reflected in our net debt. Our net debt went down in the first half year. And if we look at the net debt in relation to our earnings capacity, then that ratio is now at the level of 1.7, which is significantly lower than what we have agreed with the banks, meaning that we have a debt level which can be considered healthy. And also when you look at the way we fund the debt in our balance sheet, it's very stable and with a good spread over time, and when we have to pay back our debt. So all in all, a solid performance of Arcadis in the second quarter.
Thank you, Renier. And as a reminder, all of the information that we share on our financials with the analysts is available on the investor relations section of our company website, www.arcadis.com. And in closing, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to listen to this briefing. We have a fantastic company. We have a very exciting future. We have great capabilities. And with your help, we can be the absolute best in our profession. Thank you.